Mike, you also mentioned in your TED Talk, and we use this a lot as well in our trainings, is that learning doesn't happen from the neck up; it happens from the feet up. Can you elaborate on what this really means for our audience?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think I'm probably paraphrasing, Eric Jensen says is all learning has a physical, all thinking has a physical response. And so it's constantly a brain body endeavor. Learning is a brain body endeavor. We think about, and thinking about Ken Robinson, he talks about this in that particular TED talk about how we just think about everything happening up here in our brains, but there's actually an entirely physical response to what's going on. And even if you're sitting and learning, you are not using all of this other things are happening here when you sit for long periods of time that are not good for the teaching and learning experience, that are not good for the brain. And so that's why learning essentially happens from the feet up. The more we can use our bodies and engage our entire brain and body, which are really one, we just label it that way. This is just an extension of this. The more success we're going to have, because when you're not moving, things slow down, blood flow slows down, blood pools in the butt and legs. But it's really a full engaging experience. So one of the things I like to point out to people is that some researchers I've read suggest that culturally we sit for long periods of time in the learning process, and we want to take a break. What we do, we stand up for a couple minutes. And what they're suggesting is that we ought to think about standing as the norm. And when we want to take a break, we sit down for a couple minutes. And we're not there yet, but we're moving that way. So it's a total brain body engagement, whole being engagement that makes the learning process more engaging, more fruitful, and a better experience for everyone.
The other day too, I was, on social media. The one good thing is that the research is in our face, right? We see all the great things that movement does for learning. And one thing that stuck out with me is, Ray Pica posted something the other day talking about, we know that sitting increases fatigue and reduces concentration, and it's counterproductive to the classroom and the learning process. And we know that, but yet we continue to have kids sit constantly. So if we know that this information's out there and it's in our face, why do you think we continue to take the same educational path or same direction without really taking this into account?
Oh, it's hard to change hundreds and hundreds of years of educational philosophy. It's going to take more than a decade or two to do. People are going to have to be aware of the research. People are going to have to, think about when the kids that are in college courses right now are going to be administrators. So it's changing. They're learning more and more about the brain-body connection, about brain-compatible methods, and about movement. It's growing, but these are the people that are going to be future decision makers. If you're already an administrator, you'd have to be highly motivated to seek out this type of research or somehow be exposed to it, and really buy into it, for it to be put to good use in a school district. So it's not anyone's fault. It's just a lack of information about what the research says. And it also takes great initiative. That will be a huge thing to change a district that way, change a school building or even a classroom that way. It's a huge thing. And so it just takes a lot of motivation. It takes a lot of knowledge, and it's just going to take some time. It's happening, but it's happening kind of slowly.
Yeah, I like to add too that it's in our health and PE world. A lot of us are screaming from the mountaintops, like we know a lot of this information. Most people know a lot about this information if you're a health and PE teacher, because it's our why and our purpose. However, it's a lot of people. I think every educator knows this because it's in my world, but this information is still novel to many educators and district leaders. And so that's why there's so much space for us to share this information and to work collaboratively and united to keep sending these messages and case examples. Like I love in your book that you share a lot of examples that school districts have been successful. So I think that's part of the process too. And that's a great question, Andrew. And in our own larger urban school district, there are going to be we've said this, that it could be 5, 10, 15 years before every school is having B3 or having action-based learning labs, or, incorporating daily physical activity, or even putting a stamp on saying, we are not taking recess away.
Right.
So even though the three of us are in a large urban school district spreading this message, just to change that mindset is difficult.
And I think it's going to, it is difficult. And I think that's why I think it really is going to have to take place at the college level. And think about who is teaching those courses. For the most part, that the people that are going to grow up with this research are the people that are young kids now, or kids about to go to college, or kids in college. That's where the change is going to happen. University of Mississippi has a 12 credit endorsement, I think, on their elementary education program for physical activity and wellness. And things like that are going to inspire change, but they're not the norm. We have with Regional Training Center, we partner with LaSalle University and the College of New Jersey to offer graduate courses and master's degrees. And one of our concentrations now is it's I don't have the exact title in my brain, but it's physical activity and wellness, pretty much. It's classroom well-being and physical activity. So those are the types of things, those types of programs, when people are exposed in an intense way, that are going to create change. And that's just going to take time. I know there's a lot of college courses out there on physical activity in the classroom because I use my book, but they're not at all the norm. But that's going to push the change over the coming decades and century, frankly.
Well, it's funny what you say about Mississippi, because they have a great website for the elementary schools, Move to Learn MS, which it was funded, I think, by the state because they have a huge problem with obesity. And it's a great resource, like a Go Noodle that they've created. But see, they had to do it as a reaction to the obesity, problem that's there. And is it going to take, do you think, having to tie in more of the health problems that we have before people really say, okay, yes, we do need to put more of this in our school, and not just because school funding is always tied to testing, and you're not testing movement.
No, but we can show, there's so many things that you're bringing up now. I mean, we can show, fitness grams and state achievement tests and the correlation. The bottom line is that physically fit kids do better academically. And then we get into the physical education space where, and I get it, there's a debate in the physical education community. I'm excited about what physical activity and physical exercise does for the brain and does for learning, where that's not really what the physical educator is meant to do. It's like there's this debate out there. It's a great byproduct of what they're doing. And I think somehow we have to find a space where they can work well together. Learning readiness PE at Naperville, just such a fantastic program. So Keith, can you elaborate again a little bit more? I listened more to the end of your question versus the very beginning of your question.
Well, it was about Mississippi using the rise in obesity.
Yeah. And I, for me, I just don't want it to be about health. That's important. It's critical, but this is a great way to teach for academic achievement without any other health outcomes. So there's so many things about this that work well on so many levels. It's about creating the best learner possible. And as that learner becomes healthier, that learner moves more, they become better at their work, and they achieve at higher levels. They show up to school more. There are fewer discipline problems. And what you're saying about Mississippi, that it's a wonderful, you should really visit that website, Move to Learn. And it's a TO, not a number 2, movetolearnms.org. Hundreds and hundreds of well-done videos. It was a partnership between the state and the Bauer Foundation. You'll see Coach Calhoun is a really highly motivating PE teacher in those videos. And I actually introduced Coach Calhoun to the state of Mississippi a long time ago at a conference. And that's where that all started from. I was doing a lot of work in the state of Mississippi on behalf of the Bauer Foundation, and we had a conversation about how to make this grow. One of those things was what I described at Ole Miss. But the other thing was, how do you, and then they created a Move to Learn, just much more practical, and they can get it out to more people. And the great thing about that website, it's all free resources for anybody.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We advocate that website or use that as a resource to a lot of our teachers in our district.